This synagogue in Prague is, I think, a very interesting building that has some interesting features that just make it a little bit more challenging to draw than it might otherwise have been. Firstly, we have some reasonably strong perspective angles up the top, but we also have this porch that comes out with this sloping roof that really has its own angles and yet still has its own but different perspective patterns to get right in our drawing. So I'm trying to measure the angles of this. So I started with that top front corner, left-hand front corner, because it seemed the clearest space to draw a line and to get some measurements and some proportions going. I think that top section is just a bit too high, and therefore I made that arch window a little bit too high. And I think if it was lower, I could have made the window a bit smaller and also taken the end of that wall a bit further to the left. And that would have made the proportion of that wall more rectangular, which would have been more accurate to the proportions of the reference. But I worked down, I add these two windows again, just a tiny bit too large, and place a couple of the figures in the front to start to get a sense of scale, and simply because they stand in front of the steps and other details. So I need to get them in place before I can do more detail there. So I think I'll draw the rest of the building at this stage. So I get the angles for the top, for the roof. There are some vague details we can see under the eaves. I assume they're rafters. I really couldn't work out from the photo exactly what they were, so I did draw them rather gesturally. But at this point, I'm just trying to position these windows. Now I noticed that the three smaller windows on the top floor take the same width as the two larger windows on the floor below, and they're the sorts of details it's good to notice so we can get our alignments worked out. But equally, those top windows are just a tiny bit too large. Now, I spent a fair bit of time pinpointing the top of that roof. It would have been easy to have taken it too high. I also positioned it over where it was in relation to the front of the building, and it was almost a bit more than halfway between the side of the wall and the first of those three windows. Now this lets me then put the chimney in place, this side roof, and now I start to push out for the other side of the building. There are some ground floor windows. The ground floor is proportionately a squatter size. I dare say inside the building it goes down below ground level a bit. Then there's a small window there. After I drew that small window on the right, I realized I should have left it until I was in a position to do the window above it, because I'm thinking it's probably not going to align as closely as I want now, and I would have preferred to have kept the alignment more accurate, even if it were slightly too far to the left of its actual position. So then we have this interesting tower, and we have a little conical roof on top of the tower. So just trying to work out where to put that. But basically I'm aligning everything off what I've already drawn. And I found that this was a fairly good order in which to do this drawing, to pace the proportions. So now I put this window and see how it just has to be a bit far to the left of the other one. A hint of some sort of fence structure to the right hand side, and now I put in the steps, and there's some iron gates that are pushed open. Now I did the hatching for this horizontally. I think it would have been better if I'd done it vertically and then horizontally on the front of the stairs. But I didn't want to cross hatch it, because then I felt it would have not really gone with the line work in the rest of the drawing. So now there's a covered set of stairs. So this is really more like a covered external set of stairs on the side of the building going up to an entrance that would be on that, what looks like the first floor, the floor above the ground floor in this drawing, just looking at it and thinking about it. And I want to indicate the stone blocks because they're a fairly significant, I think, part of the effect of this. I've probably made them slightly too large. Got to admit, I'm absolutely crashed with hay fever at the moment, so I had a runny nose and probably not the concentration I would have liked to have had normally for drawing. So just some suggestions of line work for the stones. Put the footpath in. And now I'm looking to see really what still needs to be done, what details haven't been done. There are some structural lines on the roof here. And then it's pretty much just these trees at the back. That tower that we see in the very background, I'm certain is of the building behind. But I decided it just visually did add quite a nice bit of interest. So I try and draw it very lightly though. I haven't changed pens. Possibly I should have switched from my 0.2 that I'm using now to a 0.1, but I did continue drawing it with this pen, but really trying hard to not let the pen touch too much on the paper. The same with these trees. I'm trying to get a bit of a lighter look, and then I come over and I do a few heavier lines on the chimney and whatnot just to make it hopefully come forward a little bit. Trying to work out what I need to do there. How much of the branching and the twigs I'll draw to represent what's there. And now look at that. Why did I do that line? I did that line because I'd actually pushed my drawing board on the table, so the alignment had changed and I thought it was crooked, and I thought, goodness, I better make this line a bit stronger and straighten it. And of course, blimey, as I said, I'm not hugely well at the moment, so that's my only excuse. But it looks worse the more I look at it. It looks worse looking at it here on camera than it looked in life even. But that's what happens. It's not the first time I've done it, and I'm sure it won't be the last, but hopefully I will learn not to do those quick lines over the top of lines that end up being so much less accurate than the lines we already had. Look, I'm just putting some lines on the roadway to kind of give a hint of pavers, paving stones, but also therefore falling in line with the perspective angles that they would have at this point. Every line has to fit the perspective pattern that our drawing has. Look, I put these two figures here. In the drawing, the gentleman was so much taller than the others, but I ummed and ahed, but I feel he looks a bit out of proportion. So anyway, it was done now. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, I hope you found this interesting. If you want to have a go drawing this Prague synagogue, I think it's got a lot of interesting features. You'll find the reference photo on my channel community page, so why not give it a go? But look, whatever you're drawing, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.